Hi there, my name's Claire Mcdonnell. I'm a nutritionist. I'm based in Busselton in Western Australia. I'm really interested in low carbohydrate nutrition for preventing ill health and improving health. And my talk today is on processed foods and family health. So the reason that I wanted to talk to you today about processed food is because when we are changing to a low carbohydrate diet or we are looking to improve our nutrition generally, the health advice consensus is that we should be eating less processed food, but often we don't know exactly what that means. Humans have been processing food for over 1 million years. We've roasted foods, we dry it, grind it, bash it apart. We use various different techniques. And the reason we do this is to make food more nutritious so that it's more bioavailable, so that it's durable, it lasts longer to see us through winters, and it makes it more edible and to make it tastier. So they're the traditional reasons we would process food. This allowed our ancestors to live in different diverse habitats, to settle, to see through long winters and food shortages, and to populate areas. Processing is really about altering an ingredient to make it more convenient, shelf stable, or appealing. So we're really turning one thing into another. We're changing an ingredient in some way. That's processing. And many of our foods that we cook today are based on traditional processing in some way, or modern processing techniques. So processing can include canning ingredients, sealing it, such as sealing a salad, chopping, grating, maybe grinding grains or now seeds into flours, and cheese fermentation, dried fish, fermented vegetables, all forms of processing. And that also includes complex industrial processes to make convenience foods. So processing is, we have been doing it for a very, very long time. Processing in itself is not the problem, it's the type of processing. So looking at the food types I have on this slide, we've got some romaine lettuce that has been chopped up to make it more convenient. We've got a spring mix of salad, different salad leaves, where the older or drier leaves have been taken out. They're all quite a uniform size, or they've been cleaned. And then we have baby spinach, again very much a conform size and no older leaves or any dry parts. We have feta cheese that has been through a process to culture it to form the cheese. We have grated carrot or shredded carrot there. And then in that smaller pack, we've got 2 boiled eggs that have been boiled, pre-boiled, and the shell has been removed as well to make them convenient. So these are examples of processed food. These have been minimally processed. So that is that they've been slightly altered, mainly to preserve them or make them more convenient or appealing. But the important thing is that they've not substantially changed. The nutritional content and the structure of the food is still there, and we haven't altered them, the form, too much. I'd say one of the biggest problems with this lot is the amount of packaging, but that's a whole other story. So these are examples of minimally processed foods. Examples of those processes are cleaning, removing inedible or unwanted parts of vegetables, for example, cutting into shapes or grating, as here with carrots, refrigerating, freezing, fermenting, pasteurizing, and vacuum package for a longer shelf life. They're all examples of minimal processing. Then we have ultra processed food, which is food that has been highly processed, or you might hear the other term, highly refined. This is foods that have been through multiple processes. the type of processes that you can't recreate at home. They might have gone through hydrogenization, extrusion, molding, pre-processing, or a number of those different types of processing, very much industrial factory type processes. Typically, they'd have 5 or more ingredients in ultra-processed foods, and the original ingredients are not intact. They don't resemble their original ingredients. Often they're packaged quite attractively, they're promoted intensively, marketed. They are cheap to produce in bulk. They last longer, which is great for the supermarket, but also it's something that consumers often point to, that they do want longer lasting items for convenience, for affordability. And in fact, during COVID, we had a big peak in the amount of long-lasting ingredients, pantry type ingredients that were bought, like the pastas and the rices, and not low carb particularly ingredients. They can taste delicious actually, because they're engineered to look and taste appealing, and they are unhealthy. They have been linked in research to weight gain, to increased risk of different diseases, and to death. So that's ultra processed food. So really what we're saying is that there's a sliding scale of processing, and on one end, near as close as you can to the raw ingredient, the more likely you are to maintain the fibre, the vitamins and minerals and nutrients within that food. And then the more towards the other end of the scale, the ultra processed foods, the lower in nutrients, often little to no nutritional value, and high in added ingredients. Here we're saying saturated fat, salt and sugar, and it's not particularly the saturated fat, it's the quality of fat that we'd be concerned with. So here we've got an example of corn, a versatile food crop that's used a great deal to make different products. Here we've got the original corn on one end of the spectrum, then it's been processed slightly by canning and adding some preservatives, and that's minimally processed. Then we've got the popcorn, we're moving more into processed foods, and then we've got other ingredients, corn chips, tortillas, cereals, and then toward high fructose corn syrup, which you might find in soft drinks and ice creams, flavoured yogurts and jams, corn oil found in margarines and fried food. So a wide range of ultra-processed foods are made from corn. So again, on the ultra-processed side, little to no nutritional value, and very, very removed from looking anywhere near the original ingredient of corn. And it's been through many, many processes, factory type industrial processes, to make that end food product. So how much of this processed and particularly ultra processed foods are we eating regularly? So ultra processed foods make up a substantial proportion of the Australian diet, actually a whopping 50%. Of the foods that we eat on a daily basis are ultra processed. And this here in this slide we have a family who've set out their weekly shop. They did a comparison called Hungry Planet, What the World Eats, where they compared what they were eating with 30 households around the world. And it's quite an interesting comparison, just a visual comparison. And here we see the Australian family, we have a lot of packages and ultra processed products within our natural everyday foods. Research links ultra processed foods to a number of health problems. People who eat more of the stuff are more likely to be obese, to develop diabetes, heart disease, vascular disease, stroke. Studies also link convenience foods to increased cancer risk. 1 in 2 adults now are overweight or obese, and 1 in 4 children. We are living longer, but we are living poorer quality of lives. While we're spending multiple billions on health spending, we are spending very little on health prevention. And this is where the low carb lifestyle could make a really, really big difference to a great number of us. If ultra-processed food has the ability to make us unwell and increase our risk of disease over time, then why are we eating so much of it so often? Well, the consumer research has looked into this. There's lots of different interesting studies. And one of the key reasons that always crops up is that we feel we're time poor, or we are time poor, with many of us out longer hours in the day, and those with children rushing around to activities and school events. So being poor of time to spend in the kitchen and shopping and cleaning up afterwards are key issues. Those without children point to, in the age range of 25 to 54, often point to enjoying cooking, but seeing it much more as an activity to relax, to have friends over, to socialise. So cooking has changed from a need, a necessity of feeding and habits to more of a leisure activity. Many of the research shows that people are looking for longer life foods so that they have them in their store cupboard, and affordability is a factor in our shopping. And particularly with those shoppers with children under 18, they often cite that they struggle to find a balance for finding fast and affordable meals that are still nutritious. And they also have the issue of they need their meals to appeal to all members of the household. So we have social changes, affordability and budgets, and the fact that we feel we are time poor. Other key factors that influence the amount of ultra-processed food we're eating would be around marketing. And we have brands that are well known, that we have been brought up with, that are trusted. We have celebrity endorsements, we have sports marketing, we have health ratings and guidelines that are questionable and often unhelpful. And marketing is very, very powerful. The food and the branding is often made to very appealing, and we're bombarded with it on the television and in all different areas of our life. And our food culture needs to be considered as well when we go to the supermarket, when we go to the office, when we go to different organisations. Our food environment has changed over the last decades and is influencing our choice and our food habits. Cake culture. I'm not sure if you have considered it recently or had to look around your office environment or your staff room, but often we have biscuits and treats being brought in. We have bake sales for charities and things like that. And it's become quite a regular social norm to bring cakes and treats in and have those available. Interestingly, there was a TED talk a few years ago by Lou Walker on, I think she called it "We Need to Talk About Cake," and her research showed that the majority of people who work in workplaces and offices feel that there's too much cakes and treats and biscuits and chocolates brought into the office. And it was a really high proportion of people, really significant chunk of people thought there's too much. It makes it difficult to eat healthily at work, sends signals to our brains that they want this reward, they want to access this food, and it makes it difficult to develop good habits. We have to use our willpower to resist. Whereas if we were faced with more healthier choices, or this unhealthy convenience food that's ultra processed was out of sight, we wouldn't have those signals and we wouldn't need to be fighting that. So we don't really get a break in our workplaces, and we'll we see that these type of food products are everywhere. We're surrounded, so we really are bombarded. We take our cues from trusted organisations such as charities, hospitals, and our organisations, our institutions, but they sometimes do have questionable standards when it comes to our food culture. We have charities around the world raising money on a really large scale through bake sales, I mean to say. And a lot of those bake sales, the cakes and the desserts and the treats haven't actually been baked. They've come from Coles or Woolies, they've come from the baked good aisles. They're long life products full of preservatives and all of that stuff, highly refined carbohydrates that are going to convert into sugar, plus they're laden with sugar and other poor quality oils and things like that. So a number of issues with those products, and therefore sale in our schools. There doesn't seem to be a month go by at my children's school that's sort of a cake sale or a sausage sizzle in aid of preventing diabetes or researching into cancer. And a really odd way to raise money for a charity when the link to refined carbohydrates and to sugars is so direct. Here on the right hand side we've got a creamy rice pudding with cinnamon. That was given to somebody in hospital. It was a diabetic meal for a newly diagnosed diabetic, so it had been considered and approved, even though the second ingredient was on the ingredient list is sugar, indicating that it's high in sugar. That's a really small little pudding bowl, 110 grams per serve, but it has 21 grams of carbohydrate in it, and nearly 15 grams of those are sugar, and that's almost 4 sugar cubes just from the sugar. And then we've got the carbohydrates, highly refined processed carbohydrates that are going to turn to sugar rapidly in the bloodstream, and we have somebody being treated for diabetes whose blood glucose is not in control, being controlled. So we have organisations we trust, charities, government guidelines, hospitals, hospital meals that give us really mixed messages regarding what to eat and what we should be taking in and what's going to do us good and what's going to harm us. Schools are not always the safe environments they should be in regards to foods and our food culture. We have the sweets being given out at discos or juice box, chips, pizza, sometimes available at the different events. Rewards are sometimes given, food rewards, treats, chocolates. Bake sales, often, as I've already mentioned, crop up, sausage sizzlers. And these are generally to raise money for either for the schools themselves for infrastructure or work that they want to do, but often they're also to raise money for health charities. So this I find really odd when we have research, really clear research that shows that sugar and ultra-processed food is a key contributor to disease risk, but we're teaching children to eat sausage sizzlers and eat some very high ultra-processed sugary treats through their bake sales to raise money and to research further into that area. Here I've got a picture of some packed lunch food that was given away to children. This was actually in the UK, and this was given as a packed lunch food. We've got a fat-free flavoured yoghurt, chocolate milk, biscuits, and a different biscuit on a different day. In one sitting, this added up to 40 grams of sugar, an incredible amount of sugar in one sitting for a child, well over and above the World Health Organisation's recommended limit, and the UK and the government's own guidelines on how much we should be capping children's daily sugar intake into. And that's, of course, before they had the white rolls that came with it, and the crackers and the fruit, which will convert over into sugars rapidly. And what is the result if we teach children through schools that this is an acceptable type of lunch? What is going to happen if this is repeated over a period of time, and they have this a sugary breakfast and then a sugary lunch and snacks over a period of time? This could cause issues. So there are a number of reasons why we're eating more and more ultra-processed food, even though we know that it can cause harm. The trusted household brands, the sports advertising, celebrity endorsements, the questionable health star rating, our food culture, our very confused food culture, and then we have big industry. We're talking money and making an awful lot of money, and we have a very, very powerful food industry. Belinda Fettke, I believe, is doing a talk again for Tracy's Weekend, and she has some really, really fascinating research into this area of big food industry and how and what's shaped that and the history of that. It's really fascinating if you get a chance to listen to that. But those are some of the reasons to that we are increasingly eating more and more ultra-processed foods. But it's not all doom and gloom, because we've come together for the long weekend, low carb lifestyle weekend. Lots of people are doing great stuff in this health and nutrition and well-being space, and we're making low carbohydrate diets a real option for people, letting them know that they can improve their health, they can prevent ill health. We can all do our part. Here on this slide, I like this saying: when a flower doesn't bloom, you fix the environment, you don't try to fix the flower. And that's what I think we can all do. We can all play our part in this. So we can make changes we can make in our own household. We can show friends and family the links to the low carb lifestyle weekend. We can join the different online communities that are out there. We can be noisy and support others that are making changes. And on a personal level, we can make changes for ourselves. So we've already started to make changes, positive changes for our health, by tuning into this weekend, by listening to these talks, and we're educating ourselves, we're empowering ourselves, we're linking with a community and finding new resources and a new way of doing things. I find that adding mindfulness into eating, into your own habits, and slowing down eating, taking time and enjoying food and getting back in touch with flavours and the old-fashioned way of eating, of sitting down and at lunchtime, making some space around that time and getting back around the dinner table in the evening as a family, and try to celebrate that and learn about the different varieties of food and where it's come from, being part of your local farmers market or getting food delivered, food boxes, and getting back to that old-fashioned enjoyment, growing food together, even herbs and perennials that are really low maintenance, planting a fruit bush, things like that, to get back to the old-fashioned and enjoyable way of eating, and setting realistic goals for yourself and learning different basics, food swaps that are going to be suitable for you, they're going to be accessible and going to help you at different stages of swapping over. So we've put together our organisation, leafy.org. It's a non-profit organisation. We have recipes online. We have a sugar-free course to help you get started. All our recipes on there are sugar-free, low carbohydrate, and they're based on real foods. Here is an example of some swaps. It's a really good idea when you're transitioning over to a low carbohydrate lifestyle to start to think about foods that can be your new staples. And if you currently have a sweet tooth, the different types of foods that would serve you better and work better for your diet changes. So dark chocolate, natural full-fat yogurts, cheesy puddings are really, really filling and nutritious. Chocolate avocado mousse, delicious. So here, just an example of a number of different types of swaps. And it's useful to do a little bit of planning, a bit of research, and get some new handy go-to recipes and swaps for if you do start to get those cravings. And I really like this example, this slide that shows the journey of changing your diet. There's quite a number of different factors in. We've kind of mentioned a lot about the branding, the marketing, the culture, the environment, all of those different things, and the hurdles of social occasions, and then the willpower that we have to face in our office environments, in our school, to remove the burden of ultra-processed foods and high carbohydrate foods for our diet. So setting yourself goals, having a think about those, and having a plan of how you're going to break those down into SMART goals and make those realistic and time-bound, and that's what it looks like in your head. That's the outcome perhaps you're trying to achieve, but the reality of the road is a little bit more full of these ups and downs, but ultimately with reviewing and resetting and learning along the way and continuing to educate yourself and surround yourself by a great community, you can get to your own personal goals. And this is our organisation that I mentioned, leafy.org. So we are based in Western Australia. We run health and nutrition programs. I'm really proud of this organisation. We set it up just a couple of years ago. We run weight loss programs and for diabetes and weight loss patients with GP practices via video calls to patients in Sydney and in Perth. We have an online sugar-free course to help people make initial swaps and changes and find new recipes. We've worked with local councils and businesses running employee workshops on low carbohydrate living and sugar-free lifestyle. We run school workshops and cooking programs, and we have help one-to-one clients with weight loss goals as well, and checking in and accountability. So really enjoy being part of this, and I feel like there's a place for us all. Once you've transitioned into a low carbohydrate diet, it does seem to be it kind of gets hold of you, and you just want to shout about it and help more people. So getting a community around you can be really, really important. So do have a look to see who are the communities online and the different organisations and different programs. And if you want to get in touch with us, we'd love to hear from you as well. And that's it. That's my talk on family health and processed food. And just wanted to conclude by saying, yes, again, do get in touch to chat about nutrition, and we can point you in the right direction if you're looking for a local organisation or community. There's some great resources online as well, and some great events and big gatherings. Low Carb Down Under do some wonderful ones. They've got Low Carb Denver advertised. That's going to be going ahead now in next year. Public health collaboration in the UK. They've got some wonderful online resources, and of course through this weekend there's lots and lots of different health coaches and online communities. Some of them are around specific health conditions as well, which is really, really useful when it's specific, to get in touch with people who are in a similar position to you. But imagine how healthy we would all be if this was the only type of food on the planet. unprocessed, real foods, I think we'd all be looking a lot better for it. Thanks for listening. Bye bye.